Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajak Shotar Sadashishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajak Ashotara Sadashi Shimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nija Shasanarhanam Babasa Ishat Smita Sochisa Gira Priyaha Priyam Prita Manaha Kare Sprishan Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijas Shasaharanam Praja Visarge Nijashasaharanam Babasa Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Baba Ishat Smita Sochi Sa Baba Babasha Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Baba Basha Isat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijashasaharanam Babasa Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijashasaharanam Babasa Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijashasaharanam Babasa Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan. Please chant. Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijashasanarhanam Babhaishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Anage Nijashasanarhanam Vasa Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijashasaharanam Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Yamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijashasanarhanam Vasa Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Tam Priyamanam Samupastitam Kavim Praja Visarge Nijashasanarhanam Pasha Ishat Smita Sochi Sagira Priyaf Priyam Pritamana Kare Sprishan Mataji's Priyamanam samupastitam kavim Praja visarge nijashasanarhanam Vasha ishat smita sochi sagira Priyaf priyam pritamanakare sprishan Priyamanam samupastitam kavim Visarge nijashasanarhanam Saishat smita sochi sagira Tam unto Lord Brahma Priyamanam worthy of being dear Samupastitam present before Kavim the great scholar Praja living entities Visarge in the matter of creation Nija his own Shasana control Arhanam just suitable Babhase Babhashe addressed Ishat mild Smita smiling Shochisa with enlightening Gira words Priyaha the beloved Priyam the counterpart of love Pritamanaha being very much pleased Kare by the hand Spurishan shaking Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. And seeing Brahma present before him, the Lord accepted him as worthy to create living beings, to be controlled as he desired, and thus, much satisfied with him, the Lord shook hands with Brahma, and, slightly smiling, addressed him thus. Purport. The creation of the material world is not blind or accidental. The living entities who are ever conditioned, or nityabadha, are thus given a chance for liberation under the guidance of his own representative like Brahma. The Lord instructs Brahma in Vedic knowledge in order to diffuse this knowledge to the conditioned souls. The conditioned souls are forgetful souls in their relationship with Krishna, and thus a period of creation and the process of dissemination of Vedic knowledge are necessary activities of the Lord. Lord Brahma has a great responsibility in delivering the conditioned souls, and therefore he is very dear to the Lord. Brahma also does his duty very perfectly, not only by generating the living entities, but also by spreading his party for reclaiming the fallen souls. This party is called the Brahma Sampradaya, and any member of this party to date is naturally engaged in reclaiming the fallen souls back to Godhead, back home. The Lord is very much anxious to get back his parts and parcels, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. No one is more dear than one who takes the task of reclaiming the fallen souls back to Godhead. There are many renegades from the Brahma Sampradaya whose only business is to make men more forgetful of the Lord, and thus entangle them more and more in the material existence. Such persons are never dear to the Lord, and the Lord sends them deeper into the darkest regions of matter, so that such envious demons may not be able to know the Supreme Lord. Anyone, however, preaching the mission of the Lord in the line of the Brahma Sampradaya is always dear to the Lord, and the Lord, being satisfied with such a preacher of the authorized bhakti cult, shakes hands with him in great satisfaction. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mayham Dadati Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu sute devi pranamami hari priye. Vanshakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadhaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine. Nama Om Vishnupadhaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatya Reshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Tam priyamanam samupastitam kavim praja visarge nijashasanarhanam babasa ishat smitasochi sagira priyaf priyam priyatamana kare sprishan. And seeing Brahma present before him, the Lord accepted him as worthy to create living beings, and to be controlled as he desired. And thus, being much satisfied with him, the Lord shook hands with Brahma, and slightly smiling, addressed him thus. We have been reading from this second canto titled The Cosmic Manifestation, and this chapter is the answers by citing the Lord's version. We can see in this translation, Krishna and Brahma are about to have a conversation, and Krishna is pleased with Brahma's penance, his tapasya, and is about to give him the power to create the material energy and all of the living entities. So this is very befitting of the name of this second canto of the Cosmic Manifestation. And over the last couple days, we've been talking about Brahma getting direct darshan of the Lord in Vaikuntha. So I thought I'd read over a couple of those because they're very nice. Starting with 15. Lord Brahma saw in the Vaikuntha planets the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of the entire devotee community, the Lord of the goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of the universe, and who is served by the foremost servitors like Ananda, Sunanda, Prabhala, and Arhana, his immediate associates. The personality of Godhead, seen leaning favorably towards his loving servitors, is his very sight intoxicating and attractive, appears to be very much satisfied. He had a smiling face, decorated with an enchanting reddish hue. He was dressed in yellow robes and wore earrings and a helmet on his head. He had 4 hands, and his chest was marked with the lines of the goddess of fortune. The Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies, like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of the temporary character. But he was the factual supreme Lord, enjoying his own abode. Lord Brahma, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and thus, in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tears of love, he thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the way of the highest perfection for the living being, Paramahamsa. So after undergoing years and years of austerity, years and years of tapasya, Brahma is able to receive darshan of the Supreme Lord. And after receiving this darshan, Krishna is going to give him some different instructions by which he can create this material creation. And kind of overall in this verse here, Prabhupada in the purport goes on about the different properties of this material world and the preaching mission that is coming down in our sampradaya. So what is actually this material creation? We can observe it and see that mostly every situation that we try to put ourselves in, it's only suffering. So how can the Supreme Personality of Godhead instruct a being to create this material world if it's just such a place of so much suffering and ignorance? Prabhupada says here that the living entities who are ever conditioned or nitya baddha are thus given a chance for liberation under the guidance of his own representative like Brahma. So we can see that Brahma is actually receiving the perfect knowledge from the Supreme Lord by which to create this material manifestation. And we can see, and we'll see in these next coming verses, that there will be an actual conversation taking place. So he's directly receiving this knowledge by which he can make this creation. But still, if we can practically observe that this creation might seem to be imperfect, right? But actually, it's perfectly imperfect. It's doing its job exactly perfectly, right? Prabhupada often compared this material world to a hospital or to a correctional facility. Prabhupada said, you have to make hospitals how people can get rid of this material body. That is spiritual activity. We also require to open hospital. And what is that hospital? To cure this material disease, not this temporary disease. Again, we may be attacked. The complete cure of material disease, that sort of hospital will be required. That hospital is this Krishna conscious society. If we take treatment under this Krishna conscious society, then we shall be cured of this material disease. So that's the actual condition of this material world. One might walk into a hospital and say, everyone here is sick. I don't want to be treated here where there's only sick people. But we can practically see that the people in the hospital are getting treatment. And we can see that there's also expert doctors and different people working in this hospital that aren't sick, that don't have the same disease and the same conditions as these people, but they're actually getting cured. And not only that, we can actually see people being cured by following this process. So this is that nature of the material world, that Lord Brahma created this material world as more of a hospital, more of a correctional facility, by which the conditioned souls could come here and be cured of their material disease, right? This isn't a place for us to enjoy. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar vartinojuna mam upeta tu kaunteya punar janmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So we're actually suffering so much in this material world, but we should actually be enjoying blissfully in the spiritual world with Krishna. And that's why we feel so discontent in this temporary material world, because all we experience here is just solely suffering. And as I was speaking previously, and as we were discussing previously, our natural position is not to be diseased. It's actually the natural position of someone to be healthy. So while we're in this place, Brahma didn't just create a hospital, but he also created and passed down his sampradaya, so there could be expert doctors there to also heal the conditioned souls and to heal all of the people that are here. And we can even practically experience in the world, I know on book distribution, several times people have approached me or have said that, why are bad things happening to good people? Which generally means, I'm a good person. Why are bad things happening to me? Right? But we can actually practically see that these people can't have the perception that they're actually the cause of their own suffering. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that it is nature which is the cause of the material cause and effect, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this material world. So people blame God for all their problems. They think that, God created such an imperfect world, and it's his fault that I'm suffering. But really, we can see that example of the two birds and the tree, where there's the one bird who is eating the fruits of the tree. Some of the fruits might be nice. Some of them might be bitter or sour or not very nice. And the Lord is simply there observing, waiting for the bird to turn to him. So we can't blame Krishna, we can't blame Lord Brahma for creating this imperfect place, because it isn't that the material world is meant for our enjoyment, but it's actually only created because of our desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. And because of this, we fall into this diseased condition. Like you see people with so many diseases, like lung cancer or different heart disease, they cause this problem to themselves, right, by smoking, by taking too much intoxication. And if they if they blame the properties of these different chemicals, or if they blame alcohol for making you to become sick, then what kind of blame is that? It's your own fault. You personally took this substance and you personally put it in your body and you personally made yourself diseased. So if you try and blame, oh yeah, it's not my fault, it's its fault for being bad for me, right? That isn't actually a logical thing to come to. So Lord Brahma actually designed this material world perfectly, in that it's such an easy place to realize that any life separate from Krishna is actually only suffering, right? We've all experienced this so many times that if we try to enjoy in this material world, we only experience suffering. No matter what situation we're in, if we aren't in a situation where we're trying to serve Krishna or serve the devotees, we only experience suffering. And even any happiness that we might quote unquote feel, it's just simply relief from this suffering, right? It was just the Christmas season. Our Bhakta Mason was telling me about how he was describing this phenomenon to his family, where Christmas is basically like the magnum opus of this idea, at least in current Western culture, where everybody has a day off, they go home with their family, they eat food, and they might just like watch TV all day or play games. And all of it is really just a big relief from their terrible material existence, which is just full of suffering. And it only lasts for a brief moment. And then basically the next day they have to go back, and they're constantly waiting one whole year, like, oh, when will Christmas be here? When will I be able to get together with my family again and do this? So they're constantly waiting one whole year just for one day of some sort of quote-unquote enjoyment, which is actually just a time where you can experience relief. And before coming to Krishna consciousness, we might have even experienced this, that when we aren't working or when we aren't doing any of our material responsibilities, all we want to do is just like take a nap for like 8 hours or just sit and mindlessly watch TV for like the whole day, because there isn't any actual happiness there. But what the living entity, the conditioned soul, can experience is simply a slight relief from their distress, which actually just even causes them more distress, because it's like chasing that mirage that's in the desert. We are, right, when you're in the desert, there's so much heat and it's so dry that you're so thirsty, and you're constantly chasing after this mirage. And even if you get just one drop of water, all that does is just make you more thirsty. It doesn't actually quench your thirst. And this is the root cause of our ignorance in this material world. Prabhupada says, the conditioned souls are forgetful souls in their relationship with the Lord, and thus a period of creation and the process of dissemination of Vedic knowledge are necessary activities of the Lord. So this forgetfulness of Krishna is actually our main problem in this material world. This is our disease, that we've forgotten our eternal relationship with Krishna, and instead of identifying with that relationship, we've identified with the body. We've identified with that which is material. So what is the medicine for this problem? It's that Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nashteva, nashteva, nashteva gatiranyata. That there is no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way than chanting the holy names of Krishna. Then by constantly chanting these holy names, we can become free of this disease. By constantly taking the medicine, we can actually be cured. And this cure has come down in a line of teachers, in a line of expert doctors. Prabhupada says that this party is called the Brahma Sampradaya, and any member of this party to date is naturally engaged in reclaiming the fallen souls back to Godhead. So just like Brahma created this material world, not for our enjoyment, but to show people that it is a place of suffering. And it isn't just enough to show people, oh yeah, you're suffering, but actually Brahma is there and he gives people the cure. So similarly, people following in this sampradaya, people that have received the medicine, that have received the cure from Lord Brahma, they also try to create a situation whereby the conditioned souls and every single living entity can achieve this goal and get the medicine that they need to get cured. And one thing that Prabhupada says here that's very amazing and just blows my mind every time I hear something like this is that the Lord is very much anxious to get his parts and parcels back. And it's so hard for us to even conceive, when we first start coming to Krishna consciousness and we get some attachment for chanting the holy name and attachment to book distribution and attachment to Harinam Sankirtan, that we start to experience a little bit of this separation from Krishna. But Krishna actually experiences infinite more separation from us than we can even imagine, right? Krishna is just there waiting and waiting. Krishna is that bird just observing the other bird, just waiting for the bird to turn to him. And this is actually super amazing. We can actually, we have a practical story example of this given by Sanatana Goswami. It's a story of Gopakumar. And Gopakumar was traveling throughout the material world, in the upper planets, lower planets, heavenly planets, in human bodies, animal bodies. He was going through the whole material world trying to find some sort of happiness there. And he couldn't find anything that could actually satisfy him. So finally he decided, okay, he thought about this very logically, that I've been in every situation in this material world and I've only experienced suffering. So let me dedicate this life that I have fully to Krishna, and then, I can finally become free of this material world. And gradually, he went up through the heavenly planets to Brahmaloka, and then he finally went to Vaikuntha, to the spiritual world, attaining complete perfection. But still, even in Vaikuntha, right, we've been reading and discussing about Vaikuntha, this place of no anxiety. Gopakumar was completely satisfied, but at the same time he still missed Krishna, and he still missed Vrindavan. And immediately Krishna fulfilled his desire, and an airplane came and brought him up to Vrindavan. And Gopakumar arrived in Vrindavan, and Krishna was just coming back with his cows. We have a very nice picture here up in that corner of Krishna and Balaram and all the cowherd boys returning back to Vrindavan with their cows. So it was basically a scene exactly like this, where Krishna was coming back, and he sees Gopakumar, and it's like everything just like fell apart all of a sudden. Like Krishna was looking around seemingly in anxiety, and he rushed towards Gopakumar and embraced him, and actually fainted upon seeing him. And when Krishna regained consciousness, he said, "How are you? I've missed you so much. Every day I waited for you, hoping that you will return one day for sure. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful you are back. Now please stay here. Don't go anywhere." So we can practically see that Krishna is just waiting. He's waiting for the conditioned soul to finally take up this practice of Krishna consciousness. Krishna loves us so much that we can't even imagine how much. So all we have to do is just stick to this process, keep on taking the medicine, and we can actually attain darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead just like Lord Brahma did. And, this whole story and this recollection of Gopakumar, that might seem very amazing, and just thinking about that might blow our mind, that how Krishna can love his devotees so much. But what's even more amazing is what Prabhupada says next, that no one is more dear than one who takes the task of reclaiming the fallen conditioned souls back to Godhead. So everyone is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Krishna loves everybody equally, but he loves his devotees even more, and even more are those devotees who actually engage in this preaching movement, who take it upon themselves to bring the conditioned souls back to Krishna, back to their spiritual master, and who really rip this veil and this shadow of ignorance away from them. These are the most dear to Krishna. And we can see that just like Lord Brahma had this great responsibility, and just like Lord Chaitanya gave us this great responsibility of preaching this Krishna conscious movement in every town and village, Srila Prabhupada also gave us this order, this responsibility, and this process of Krishna consciousness has come through us in disciplic succession. And it is our duty and it is our responsibility that we should see every living being, every conditioned soul who isn't practicing Krishna consciousness, and we should have such a strong desire to bring them to Krishna, to bring them to our spiritual master. We can practically see this in the life and the actions of Srila Prabhupada, how Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, Prabhupada had taken sannyas, Prabhupada was engaging in devotional service very, very nicely and could have just stayed in Vrindavan and done his thing. And even to some degree, you could say that Prabhupada could have just stayed in India, where people are more pious, right? We can see that Lord Chaitanya, he delivered such fallen souls like Jagai, Madai, at the time, Haridas Thakur, Rupa, and Sanatan Goswami. They were considered, before coming to Krishna consciousness, some of the lowest people in society. But even in the society of India at the time, these people were considered much higher than the people of the Western world. But Prabhupada, he left India, he came to the Western world with absolutely nothing, no money, and any money that he got, he would just use to print more books. And he preached to these Western people who had no culture, barely any intelligence at all. And we could see how, by engaging in this process, how dear he became to Krishna, and how sad and upset and how much love he had for all the conditioned souls, that he wanted to bring everybody back to Krishna. There was this one anecdote that I was hearing in a lecture by my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktivikas Swami, where Prabhupada was in a car with another devotee, and they were in traffic, and Prabhupada was like, "It's 6:30 in the morning. What's with all this traffic that's here?" And the devotee was like, "Yeah, Prabhupada, all the people, they live so far away from the city, so they have to drive into the town to work and to do their thing." And while in the car, the devotee was thinking like, "Oh my God, like this traffic is so bad. It's gonna delay me. It's causing me so much suffering." And he was kind of thinking about this situation in terms of himself. He was thinking that, I might be late to the one spot that I'm supposed to bring Prabhupada, and I just have to sit here. And it's like, oh my God, like we've all had to sit in traffic for so long. I remember I was just driving back here from Alachua, and our drive took an extra hour and a half because there was 3 accidents on the highway, and we were just sitting there. You move an inch, sit there for another 5 minutes, move an inch, right? It's such a suffering situation. But Prabhupada wasn't even thinking about that. Prabhupada was thinking, oh my God, these people are just wasting their life. And Prabhupada actually started crying, thinking about how these people, they're going throughout their life without Krishna consciousness. And this is what's practically going on in the world, that people are getting so much information that's practically useless. Back to this example of the hospital, we can practically see that there's probably 3 different things that you can get. You can get the actual cure, you can get the medicine, you can get what's called a placebo, which is basically something that looks like the medicine, but it's actually just some harmless, like generally it's sugar, or they give you basically like a sugar pill telling you that it's the real thing. But you can actually get what's called the wrong medication, and it can actually be poisonous for you, right? So there's the materialists who are giving us this placebo, right? They aren't really trying to be harmful to you. They're just trying to, just enjoy, right? And, give you a sugar pill telling you that, yeah, all these problems, if you get a nice car, if you get a nice house, if you get a nice family, right? There's this saying in the Western world, sugarcoating, right? They just try to sugarcoat everything to make it seem really, really nice. That's like kind of my process when I'm making sweets for the devotee. Just put as much sugar on it as possible so it tastes nice. But this is what the materialists are doing in the material world, that they're simply trying to engage us in sense gratification. They're giving us the placebo, right? There's this guy at the airport, this homeless guy we've been talking about, and he sells people these perfume bottles. And, he has this like really good hustle where he'll go up to them and be like, yeah, bro, I'm late for my flight and they won't let me take this with me, bro. Like, this thing costs $200, bro. Can you just like give me like a little bit for it? And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. So this guy, he's really harmless to them. He just like looking to make a little money here and there. But what he's doing it's harmless, right? He isn't out there looking to hurt someone or to put someone down. He just out there to like make a couple dollars, right? But worse than this, we can see are people that are posing as doctors and posing to give us the real thing, but they're actually giving us poison. And this is what Prabhupada talks about later on here in the purport, that even worse are pretenders who make someone think that they're on the right path, but actually they're only drinking poison. And if you go in to get a cure and you go in to get healed, and someone only makes your condition worse, right? This person isn't useless, but they're worse than useless, right? They're like the homie at the airport that's just hustling for a couple dollars. He's pretty useless. He's doing his thing. But we were also at the airport once. I think Abhimanyu Sutta Prabhu was there, and this crazy lady had a knife, and she like tried to stab like someone or like one of the airport workers. So this is an example of someone who's actually out there trying to harm people, and not only just kind of going about and doing their thing, but they're actually out there trying to take people away and to actually do significant harm to people. So these are people out there that are telling, and generally they do this with the guise and the covering of the Vedic scriptures, that they'll say, yeah, in the Vedas, and they'll quote some verse, and they'll say, yeah, so this means that I'm God and you're God, and, just by, Krishna's there and demigods are there, but you can actually just worship me and then I can give you everything. But this person is actually only giving you poison, because not only do they take you away from Krishna, but they engage in worship that's only meant for Krishna, and they have you worship them like Krishna, when in actuality this person is not only nowhere even near Krishna, but they're actually envious of Krishna. So we can see that just because something is written in Sanskrit doesn't make it bona fide. Just because there's these couple of sayings, like there's this I don't know what language this is in. It might be Bengali or something, but it's this Jatamat Tatopat, that as many paths there are, as many opinions as there are, that many paths are also there. So basically, it's just saying that all paths lead to the same goal, and anyone with their own philosophy, they can just follow that and they'll achieve their goal, right? But this is actually completely bogus. Similarly, I forget the exact Sanskrit for this, but there's this saying that as soon as you receive a danda and take sannyas, you become Narayana. What's this verse, Vishnu Chitra Prabhu? Yeah, so just because someone quotes something in Sanskrit or from the Vedas, or they're from India and they have a nice big beard and they look like a sadhu, doesn't mean they're actually someone who's following the correct process. And we can see who is actually following the correct process by someone who's following in the line of Lord Brahma. And this is the main point that Prabhupada is trying to push here, that someone who's an actual teacher and someone who's a real doctor for our disease condition in this material world is someone who shows us that this material world is full of suffering and gives us the cure. And like I was saying before, this responsibility has come to us in disciplic succession. So Prabhupada says, anyone, however, preaching the mission of the Lord in the line of the Brahma Sampradaya is always dear to the Lord, and the Lord being satisfied with such a preacher of the authorized bhakti cult shakes hands with him in great satisfaction. So we must make this preaching mission our life. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that if there's no preaching going on, it's actually better that you close the temple. And he also instructed Srila Prabhupada that if you ever get money, print books. So Prabhupada has given us the order of Lord Brahma in our Sampradaya that we should engage in this preaching movement. And what is the best form of preaching that Prabhupada gave us is to distribute his books. So there's this saying by my spiritual master. He says we should stay brahmachari, live simply, dedicate our lives to preaching and distributing books, then our life is already perfect. So this is the instruction that's coming down in our parampara, that if we just simply stay preaching and distributing books, we can get this ecstatic interaction with Krishna that Gopakumar got when he went back home, back to Godhead. And we can become so dear to Krishna simply by just dedicating our lives to preaching. And Prabhupada says that this is how someone becomes most dear to Krishna, is by engaging in preaching. And Krishna loves his devotees so much, and he loves all the conditioned souls so much, that it only makes sense that if someone is bringing people back to Krishna, that he becomes so dear to Krishna. So it's 8:30. I'll end my class here. We aren't doing questions or comments because of the book marathon. So, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Am I supposed to press for this?